Whether it's paid or not, getting to play at football stadiums, getting to meet professional footballers, I'd do any of that for free because it's something that I know my friends and my peers would do anything for. So I'm just grateful to have those experiences.
Cameron Corp, better known as Power and Precision, has built a following of almost 1 million followers across platforms by sharing content created with the world's best footballers.
Today, he shares his journey and gives insight into how he's built his audience and how much you can actually make sharing football content.
There's a lot of jobs, and the one thing I've always said about social media with what I've done, you learn on the job doing it. There is no right or wrong way of doing it. You just learn a better way to do things next time.
What content tends to do best, and what's your favourite content to shoot?
The content that traditionally did best for my own socials were impressive free kicks. It's my DNA.
How many views are we talking on a free kick video?
I remember there was 2015 I scored probably still is the best free kick of my life. And this was in a period where sports pages wouldn't really share user-generated content, and Sport Bible shared it. And it went viral, like it did like 12, 15 million views on Facebook.
Do you think about like monetization on those platforms? And for somebody who generates a few million views every month, what does that look like across those platforms?
TikTok, it's all based on, obviously the video being 60 seconds to qualify and you having the follower requirements. But the second thing is the watch time. The Nunes video that I've just done, I think in the first 12 hours that it had clocked the views for, it did 620,000 views, 310,000 qualified, and it's made me...
You ruptured your Achilles, and in the moment that it happens, or that you're diagnosed and you realise like how long you're going to be out for, like what are the emotions that you're going through?
I mean, I was broken.
So how is it you've dealt with it then?
Well, I'll be honest, the first couple of weeks...
Cameron, where do I start? Welcome to the show. How you doing, bro?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing very well. I jotted down some stats which I've remembered, but I'll read them anyway. You've got over 360,000 followers on TikTok. You've got over 300,000 followers on Instagram. You've got another 127,000 on YouTube. So you're nearing the million across platforms. Probably is a million if you include other platforms that I'm not even talking about. But yeah, how did we get there, bro? Mr. Power and Precision. So before we start though, before we get into how we got there, I like to do a little icebreaker.
Okay.
And what I've been doing lately is a blind ranking. So for anybody who follows Cameron, you'll know that he's big into his free kicks, his football boots, his this, his that. So we are going to blind rank iconic football boots. All right.
Oh, you got me in trouble already here. Okay.
1 is the best.
Yeah.
5 is the worst.
Okay.
We've got 5 to blind rank. Are you ready for it?
I'm ready. Hit me.
Adidas Predators.
They're so iconic, so I'm going to have to say number 2.
Woohoo!
I'm jumping early.
Nike Total 90s.
I'm going to get hate for this because like I wore them growing up, but they weren't my boots. So I'm going to put them at number 4.
Okay. Puma Kings.
Number 5.
Okay, fair.
That's going to kill some of the older generation. I'm so sorry.
Nike Mercurial Vapors.
1.
I thought so.
Yeah.
And then the Adidas Copa Mundials.
3.
Yeah.
That's not, but I think maybe 3 and 5 I could have switched. But
Okay.
I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So yeah, like that was just a nice little icebreaker. But yeah, like take us back, bro. How did you get started? Because I know there are going to be people who tune into this wanting to, learn about your journey. Can you take us all the way back to the beginning?
Absolutely. So my journey started in 2013, 2014. I officially started my channel and my socials 2014. But all came about because when I was still in secondary school with all of my friends, I played football for like my local team. That's how I was mates with all my boys. And this is a bit deep, but like I was getting very, very bad cramps in my legs constantly, not just playing football, like middle of the night, really bad. Went to the doctors 3 or 4 times. And eventually they tested all my sugars, my blood, and I had high blood sugar, type 1 diabetic there on the spot. And it was like to hospital, got sort of treated, looked after, introduced to it all. So because of all of that, at the time they said, try and avoid competitive sport because it can mess up with your levels, and it's important that you sort of stay on top of it initially. At a period of time in my life, this is when I think I was transitioning from kids football to adults football, and it was going into the men's team from 11-a-siders, juniors if you like. So I lost a bit of confidence, and side story to this, when we would train, I would always stay behind and take free kicks. That was like the thing I would do. I'd always watch YouTube tutorials, always try and replicate Ronaldo, my favourite player, how he'd hit the knuckleball. Loads of players that have made all those techniques famous. And so I would always stay behind with my friends anyway, so I was always good at that. And I think it was Christmas of 2013, my parents got me an iPad for Christmas. Now, I don't get many great, like, big expensive gifts. That's not the type of family that my mum and dad are. And I was, like, really taken aback. And I wouldn't open this iPad because I felt so bad. And it got to, like, March time. And my friends were like, you need to film what you do and put it on YouTube, submit it to top 5 goals by, there's channels called Free Kickers, who are a German channel to the F2 from the UK. So I got it out, recorded. Next week I got featured number 2 in this channel with like 2 million subscribers, and they messaged me and said, what's your YouTube channel? Because we need to give you credit. And I was like, don't have one.
Wow.
That's how it started.
Wow.
So it was complete accident, to be honest.
And then from there, they message you, they say, all right, where's your YouTube channel? Is it you create the YouTube channel and like you just start creating content from that point?
Yeah, a mix, because I made the channel, it was a group of 7 of us, of lads, and myself and my best friend at the time, Josh Evans, we came up with the name Power and Precision because we were like, what does a free kick need? It needs power and it needs precision. So it was like a nice name. And because we, as a friendship group, we'd all go down and just take free kicks, I'd just stick my iPad on a tripod and we'd just whack free kicks for hours, and I would just make a compilation of our best goals. So there was no thought behind it in terms of creation. It was more just like, let's show our mates what we can do down at the pitch.
Yeah, and like, okay, at that point, you're just showing your mates, like, what's the initial traction like with the videos you're posting? And like, where does the turning point come where you're like, okay, we might actually be onto something here?
For me, I think it all became real and there was maybe a turning point, probably not until a year down the line. But I know initially when I was first posting videos, it was something in our last year of school when we had form time. I'd whack the videos on our screen so everyone could watch it in the class, and it was a bit of like showing off how good we all were at football.
Yeah.
And that's just, even now talking about it, it's weird to look back because I'm like, it was never about making anything or making numbers and getting views. It was just to share it with your mates.
Yeah.
But I think it must have been probably like late 2014 to 6-7 months in. I think we hit like 1,000 subscribers. And one of my friends called Siokajin Kim, he is another YouTuber. He passed my details on to Adidas's agency, and they contacted me and offered to send me a pair of football boots for free.
Bloody hell, at 14? Wow.
And they were blackout Adidas Predators. I've still got them. They were £180, and I remember going to my mum and dad and just being like, Adidas are sending me these elite football boots that, like, I'd never had elite football boots. And it was like, these cost £180, they're going to give them to me for free. And I remember at that point being like, this is really cool. And I think for the next 3 months, they maybe sent us another 1 or 2 pairs. And me and all my mates, like as 16, 17-year-olds, it was like, this is crazy. We're getting free football boots. And I was letting everyone try them on and wear them for the videos. So that was definitely where I think I sort of can fondly remember first thinking, maybe there's something to this, and this is a really cool perk of just having some fun and posting videos online.
All right, and then like from there, can you take us through, I suppose, any other milestones in your growth on YouTube? And then, yeah, when does it kind of turn from this is just a bit of fun I'm showing to friends in school to something a bit more substantial?
Absolutely. I remember getting to a point where everything sort of changed was probably 3 or 4 years down the line, and my friends and I, we all sort of went our separate ways. We're all still mates and we'd all still sort of get together when we could, but university, college, jobs, all those sort of things sort of dispersed us, and I was the only one that was really passionate about driving it forward, not even because I saw anything from it, just because I loved to kick a football. Like that's all it was. So it was, I'd say maybe 2016, so 2 years into it. I remember it was the Euros in France, I think, and there was a lot of work, as there always is, around European Championships, World Championships, for influencers. I hate the word, but influencers, creators. And I can remember getting invited to a few events in London, in Manchester, just becoming more of a regular face with my peers and the lads that I've met online.
How big were you at the time?
At the time, I think I must have had maybe 20,000 subscribers on YouTube and maybe 70 to 100,000 on Instagram.
Okay.
And I can remember in 2016, it was a lovely year because it was when Instagram used to be a very preferred platform for everyone, and the algorithm was chronological order.
Yeah.
And I have made many videos explaining my displeasure with how it all changed, but that was a very good year for sort of growth. And I can remember that was a time where everything sort of seemed to fit into place, and that was when I sort of first saw there could be some potential with all of this.
I love it. And when you're getting invited to these events for the Euros, is it like, is it paid appearances? Is it just you turn up, you mingle with your peers, you create content? What's kind of going on when you're getting invited to these events?
In that period, I don't think I had any paid work. I can't even remember. I think it was 2019 was the first time I had like a paid gig.
Wow.
And I think some of that comes down to me actually not knowing. And I probably could have asked questions or pretended I had an agent or small things like that. When you're older, you learn more and you're like, oh, I could have done that. But for me, it was all experiences. And I remember, and I still to this day will sit here now with everything I've done, my proudest achievements with everything is the things I've been able to do because of where I started.
Yeah.
So whether it's paid or not, getting to play at football stadiums, getting to meet professional footballers, I'd do any of that for free because it's something that I know my friends and my peers would do anything for.
Yeah.
So I'm just grateful to have those experiences. But of course, later years, the more you grow and the more you learn and the more you have to survive, money and finance comes into it.
Yeah. I think like one of the key takeaways from that, right, is we look at where you're at now. People who follow you will see that, yeah, you're working with, the biggest names in football, but you didn't take payment for 6 years, right? You were posting, you were building your audience, you're getting the views, but it doesn't necessarily translate into earning a living. And I think you just have to paint that picture, right? Because everybody will see where you're at now and think, oh, I'd love a bit of that. But would you also like the 6 years of doing it whilst fun and some unforgettable experiences, but not actually putting anything in your pocket? Just going back to that time before, you start to turn it into a bit of a career, are there any like standout moments? You mentioned the Euros there. Were there any, particular collabs or things that happened at that time?
That's a great question. Some standout moments for me, there was a guy called Louis Kobetz, and he's an American YouTuber. He went by the name Shoot and Thrill, and he was one of the original sort of football creators on YouTube, and he was one of the greatest at striking a knuckleball. And
an American, one of the greatest.
Yes.
All right, man.
Google him, watch him. I promise you, phenomenal. And I hope he gets to see this because I know he does not play football anymore. But and I remember I grew up. Sounds weird, but I grew up watching him as many YouTubers online.
Yeah.
And one day he was like, I'm coming to England and we can like catch up, and I got to take free kicks with him. And for me, I was just like, man, this is so cool, because to, other people who I'm friends with football, like who are in the football scene, it's, I'd love to film with a footballer. I'd love to meet a footballer. I'm like, I want to meet a YouTuber that I've watched online. And I've had a lot of those full circle moments in my career since and during that sort of period where there was a lot of people I watched online that you then meet and you hang out with and you're like, wow, this is awesome. That's one that just springs to mind. And I think another one that was really strong for me would have been in 2018. New Balance had just broke into the football boot industry in the market. I think they'd just taken Liverpool as a sponsorship for kits, and they launched their football boots, and they actually sent me and Power and Precision loads of football boots and asked us to log into their Instagram and do a story takeover with us basically filming some videos. And it was fantastic. And I remember at the time, all the lads, I was like, lads, come to the pitch. I got something sick for you. Gave them all a bag each, and it was like a rucksack with a pair of boots, a full training kit, even stuff like swim shorts. Don't ask me why. But it was all these things that they sent, and I thought, wow, this is cool. Like New Balance is an established brand. It's yes, they weren't massive in football, but they're one of the biggest sportswear giants, and they've just given me their login for their Instagram page with a few 100,000 followers and given us all this free stuff. But again, not paid.
Yeah. That is mental. And like in terms of like editing, right? You've been doing this since 2013, 14. Is it something that you've just learnt yourself? And what are the softwares that you're using, and how long does the process typically take you when you're creating your content?
When I'm editing, I originally started on my iPad, so I'd use iMovie. Terrible. But I did that for the iPad, and then because I stuck with Apple, I went to my laptop and I got Final Cut Pro. And when I went to college, we used it as an editing software. So I learned through college. And I also harassed one of my mates, Kim, every other day, messaging him, how'd you do this? How'd you do this? And he'd be like, he'd always just say, YouTube it, just YouTube it. And he'd get so sick of me asking. But yeah, it was all self-taught and through friends and whatnot. But that was, that's what I still use now. But in 2025 as well, when it's a lot of iPhone content and shot quick and point of view, etc., it's all on sort of CapCut, Video Leap.
It is, yeah.
Whatever's accessible. Normally, my sort of rule of thumb is if it's portrait content that's for myself, it's always going to be edited on my phone. And for a brand or anything that's on YouTube 16:9, I'll use a editing software on my laptop and give it the full works.
And like in terms of process, is it still like hours and hours of editing, or have you got it down now where you can like churn stuff out quickly if needed?
The process for me, short form content, is pretty simple. Most of the content I make, I'll have a storyboard or an idea of how it's going to look before I shoot it anyway. And still to this day, I've just began to start editing a new YouTube video, my first video in I think a couple of years on the platform. And I've already gone back to exactly how I did it back then, which is find music first. Music is essential for me.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to sort of my content and it's scoring goals. You want the right music to fit the mood. Copyright music is even more of a nightmare now than when it was back when I started doing it.
Literally my last video, it was like, yeah, we're stopping this because like my editor in the intro used it. So I was like, all right, I got to buy Artlist so that I've got that.
The hoops you've got to jump through, I'm just like, oh man, it's so frustrating. But also for me, I love it when I find the song and I can picture it and I'm like, yep, this is it. This is going to work for this. And I go from there. So it's always music first for long form, music first, then sort of storyboard, cut everything together, and then make it all polished, add your sound effects. And
I love it. Do you use any, like I just mentioned Artlist there, are you using anything that helps with copyright? No, you're just finding something that you can use free.
I used to, when I was partnered with my first network on YouTube, I think they were called Athletia Sports. I'm trying to remember the sound. I think it was Epidemic Sounds was like a really popular one, and they had a subscription, so it was a great copyright-free library. But no, I used to dive into remixes of popular songs because that seemed to be a loophole that you could use popular songs that weren't the original.
Yeah.
I don't know if YouTube have clamped down on it now. I'll find out in my next video and upload it.
YouTube have clamped down on a lot, bro. I mean, I think I've just seen that they've clamped down on AI as well, so you can't even generate revenue from that. But
it's crazy.
Yeah, so it doesn't surprise me. All right, so that takes us, we're about 2018, 2019. Like, are you thinking at any point, I want to go to university? You know, you've mentioned college. Like, did you have any ideas for other careers that you wanted to do?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I had zero idea of what I wanted to do if I was to go to university. In college and school, I did like business, sociology, and media for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But no, university never appealed to me just because I was quite uneducated in terms of I didn't know all the good and bad about university. I just knew that it cost loads of money and that you accumulate debt, so that already put me off.
Yeah.
So university was never sort of an option for me. I think it was probably around that stage when you referenced 2018, 2019, where I think I remember thinking perhaps one day Power and Precision can be a stepping stone for a career, for a job. And, you know, in 2021 that did end up becoming a thing, but it was never sort of education or YouTube. It was more, I'm just going to go with what I enjoy doing. And luckily I had a lot of support from my friends, from my mum and dad, who were putting up with all these deliveries coming to my house and me having an obsession with just kicking a football into an empty goal or multiple times a week. Yeah, that was it.
And like on that, right, in the build up throughout all these years, are there ever moments where you're like, I don't know what I'm doing here, I might just shut this down. You mentioned the fact that some of your friends, they go their separate ways. Like, what is going through your mind at those moments, and how is it you persevere to continue?
For me, in difficult moments, there's been loads, and more of it has been, if I'm not enjoying it, I check out. And I respect and am so grateful for everyone that's followed me, whether it was 10 years ago or 10 minutes ago. And I've always felt a sense of responsibility to deliver. And subscribing, following is free. It doesn't cost anything. So I've never seen it as like a monetized thing that I have to do something. It's been more of like a loyalty and a duty to post things. And that's when I always struggled, was when I was not enjoying something, whether it was I couldn't score a goal, or it was life is getting busy, or even when my friends couldn't film with me as much. I can fondly remember a period when I was filming all the time by myself, and that was a massive change for me, because I would normally at least go down with one friend, and you've got someone to talk to for the whole day. You can get someone to hold the camera if you want to film something slightly different. So I remember that being a bit weird. But then I think the wonderful thing about social media, and especially with the football industry, is something is always happening in football. So something will always inspire me, or I'll see an opportunity or get invited to an opportunity, and it sort of lights that fire. But I definitely did have a 1 month period at some point. I couldn't tell you exactly when. And I remember putting in the group chat to all my boys, being like, lads, I think I'm done. I don't know what I'm going to do here, and maybe it's time to just get a normal job. And they were all like, don't be an idiot.
Yeah. So you had your friends who kept you on the straight and narrow.
Absolutely.
And then, like, in terms of, just before we move into some of your later stuff, if we go back to, like what you do, like the free kicks, the this, the that, how long does it actually take to produce these videos, right? Because we see the finished article of you smashing it top bins, hitting the crossbar, the this, the that. Is it I come in, I set up my camera, ping, thank you very much, I'm gone? Like, what is the reality behind these kinds of videos?
With my content, there's two ways it will go, and it is very black and white. It's either I'll turn up and I will be unbelievable, and I'll be looking at myself like, what is going on? I'm so good today. And there's other days where it's a long process, and whether that's down to the video that I'm shooting is going to take a lot of thought and a lot of time. And especially when I was by myself, it would be set the camera up, press record, run in front of it, do a shot, watch it back, make sure you've done it right. And then other times it was purely, sometimes I just couldn't kick a ball. I forgot what I was doing, and that's when I've had some meltdowns by myself, which no one knows because no one was there. Yeah. But I'm happy to admit it. There's times that I've just lost the plot, and I've missed a free kick or something stupid, and I've just picked up my balls and whacked them over the fence, hit them as high as I can. I've just been like, what is going on? But the longer videos are, in terms of, from a technical standpoint and a creative standpoint, a lot of the stuff I did in that period was play tests with football products, so mainly football boots that the brands were sending me. I would see that as like an art piece, because I want it to go in my portfolio to be like, this guy is a reliable source to review a product. I didn't want to be a computer and like a robot spitting out facts and technical standpoints about what a boot's made of. I wanted to be real. And that was based on a lot of YouTubers that I watched who were working for retail partners that were very humane in their nature. So I like to say, well, this boot isn't made of this, but it feels really good because it fits like this. And I was just trying to make it more consumer friendly. And so even shooting the videos from a sort of shot perspective, I was so particular about, I had to be perfectly in the middle of the frame when I did a skill or when I struck a ball, and sometimes the camera would go out of focus by the time you've moved. So those days I would sort of strap myself in, knowing that I'm going to be here for a long time, especially by myself. But everything was always worth it for the finished product, and I would thrive off of post and publish and seeing it go live on YouTube, just to be like, there's the finished product, it was worth it.
And when you were posting back in those days, and we'll get on to current day, was there like a particular time you were posting? Was there a particular frequency, or was it just, I create, this bit of content for a brand or whatever, when it's ready, it goes?
Early days for me, posting content, it was on YouTube weekly. Instagram was every day or every other day, but quite a lot more frequent because of the phone sort of era of everyone being on their smartphones. But no, it was never really to meet anyone's deadlines. It was just I tried to get into a rhythm of posting at least one video a week, just so my subscribers had something to watch every single week. And also it was just a nice sort of mental challenge because I was only working a part-time job. It was, you don't have anything else to do, so this is a fair sort of schedule and discipline to work towards.
Okay, and then that brings us nicely into, you're doing all of these shoots, like you say, you're giving feedback on boots, and then this leads to this incredible opportunity. So do you want to give us an insight into the work you did with ProDirect and how that came about?
My career changed a lot when it was 2021, and I think I'd lived in London for a month. I'd parked my part-time job temporarily, and they allowed me to have a month off to go and, for the first time, explore my social media full time, which I did. I hit some great numbers. I was extremely productive, filming with other people in London all the time, which is something I hadn't had for a long time, collaborating and just being on a pitch with someone, so your brain is already working. And within that 1 month, ProDirect Soccer, who are a retail partner, reached out to me, some of the people inside, and said that they've got a producer role available, and essentially headhunted me. And the sort of story with it is they knew that I was not a producer and I didn't have any experience of producing, but I think in hindsight, with having worked there, I think they saw a lot of my potential and values in my expertise in short form, my efficiency, my credibility with presenting and talking about product. And so they were willing to sort of train me up and take the risk on my production elements, getting better with experience being there, but use my brains a lot to give them some different alternative creative directions for the way they were doing things. So that was, October 2021 I started, and it was a job that I never went looking for. It was a job that, with all the things it involved, I didn't know existed, but I always dreamt of. Like, it had everything I'd ever want. Working with football players on a weekly basis, seeing, not only having product in hand, but seeing it months ahead of release and having access to shoot with it, to go to brands' headquarters, speak to the designers of the boots, learn about... For me, I just grasped a complete different understanding and respect for everything I've ever done, but also sort of having that perspective on the other side of the window of how a brand tries to hit their consumers versus how a creator tries to hit their customers or their followers, whatever we want to label them as. And that was just a game changer. And it was, going back to what I sort of referenced earlier, a moment when I was like, I can't say no, because this really seems like a once in a life opportunity. Given that I had just left my job to do my own stuff full time, I thought maybe this has been my payoff of all my social media work. Let's just jump in head first and see what happens.
I've got so many questions on this, right?
Hit me.
You're producing for ProDirect. Who are you reporting into?
So internally it was... I still don't fully know the structure, to be completely honest. But what I know is that we'd have like a brand team who would be very like business orientated and talk to all of the sports brands and would figure out the campaigns we're going to do ahead of time, whether it was with athletes or a certain product. So as a producer, my first and foremost role was I would be the producer on a shoot. So I would be involved in all the pre-production meetings, talking to the team that I was working with at ProDirect and also the brands about, okay, this is what's going to happen on this day with this shoot or with this athlete, with this product. And that's all the stuff that I won't go into too much because it's very complex and techy. But then the stuff that people will see is I would be on the shoot as the producer behind the camera, choreographing things, allocating our time, creating a run of show, making sure that the athlete's outfit is prepped and ready, and requesting stock, and lots of things that I loved, which I had no experience with. And what I sort of took the opportunity to do, which I know benefited and ProDirect were absolutely delighted for me to do, was to also jump in front of the camera to do some short form content.
That's what I was going to ask.
And for me, I just wanted to activate these players, because my first 3 months I was starstruck all the time, like, this is amazing. I'm not only am I meeting this player, but you're working with them. Like, I think that's the biggest takeaway for me with my career at ProDirect. It's the fact that you're not there for a 10-15 minute slot in and out. You're there for 2-3 hours. You build a rapport with these players. And for me, my number one sort of habit that I developed was I really genuinely wanted the best content and outcome for ProDirect. I wanted to make sure that our team were being efficient, that everyone was on board together, we're all trying to achieve the same thing, but that we make the best content so the brand's happy, ProDirect are happy, the athlete has a good time, and it looks great on us.
On that, can you give an example where you achieved that? So what's a player you worked with? Who's the brand it was for? And yeah, what is it that you like what's the kind of content that you guys recorded, and what was the result?
Well, I think to try and answer that and give a bit of context as well is something I maybe went a bit tunnel vision with, and I don't know if people liked it or didn't like it. I'm assuming they did because I didn't really get told off for it. But when I was very passionate about something, I sort of forgot what people's responsibilities were or what authority there was. And I was like, I think we should do this because it's going to do well, or it's going to get the most out of an opportunity. And as I said to you a second ago, one thing that I was really hard on was how can you activate an athlete? Because with no disrespect to the industry and the way some teams do things, photography would sometimes get neglected, or it was very similar on all shoots, and there's only so many ways you can shoot an athlete or a pair of football boots. And I always wanted to make photography an important thing on a shoot because I wanted to show off things in a different light. Mm-hmm. But then from a video aspect, which is where I really thrived, I wanted to use myself as a catalyst on video, on screen, to show just how good footballers actually are. And there was two payoffs for that. There was number one, you can see the difference in quality between a YouTuber, influencer, Sunday League player, whatever you want to label me, and a professional. But also, from a viewership perspective, I tried to do challenges and videos that I would do at home with my mates that kids could watch and be like, oh, I saw this player do this online, we should try it. And it's something they can set up themselves and do with their mates. You don't need cameras and high production kit and full-size goals with nets and targets. Just you, your mate, and a ball, and like set a challenge, something you've got to work towards. So going back to your question, there's been a few that I've been really proud of, players-wise, that I've worked with, or shoots that I've produced behind the scenes that I haven't even featured on. One of them, it was one of my favourite days ever. We worked with a few Bayern Munich players at their training ground, but we ended up with Thomas Muller. Okay. And Thomas Muller, I already knew going into it because we'd done some research. He's a funny bloke. Yeah. Like, he is very German, speaks fluent English, but like he's got a lot of German characteristics about him. Yeah, sehr gut. And we had access to him to do our franchise called Pro versus ProDirect, something that I took ownership on, setting the actual challenges, because a lot of the content that was being done was quite generic copy and paste. And I said, I think we should tailor it to each player. So if a player's a goal scorer, get them pinging a ball and showing off how consistent they are, whatever. Thomas Muller was injured, and I think we found out about it on the day. So when you hear a player's injured, the brand police come out and it's like, oh, they can't do this, they can't do this. Yeah. 9 times out of 10, the player just wants to play football, so they'd happily do it. But you can't.
Maybe you could have done some trivia. He's really smart. He's a really intelligent footballer.
So intelligent. So we pivoted on the spot, and I was very good at just sort of saying, okay, we can do this, we can do this, we can do this. So we worked it out. And it was with young Philly at the time, and I absolutely love young Philly. Like, when we talk about the recent times and what's happened, I don't know. Yeah. But as a creator and as someone who has got so much energy and passion, he was fantastic with building a relationship with players and getting so much out of them. Mm-hmm. Those two clicked, and they were doing this one challenge, and he was getting so much out of Thomas Muller, and we had a few clips that went viral, did like millions of views in 24 hours. And one of them was Thomas Muller had to try and roll the ball and stop it in a circle. And it was different point scoring system depending where you do it. And as he rolls it, he goes, the swan, and he starts doing this dance. It doesn't sound that funny, but when it's Thomas Muller, who's like this stern German, like authoritative guy just doing this stupid celebration, and he stops it bang in the middle of like the last target. They both lose it, fall on the floor laughing.
I love it. We're going to clip it. We're going to overlay it.
It's got to be in there. And I remember he was such a pleasure to work with, but the feedback that the brand gave us, that even the team gave us internally about how great the content all turned out, but also if I remember rightly, Thomas Muller's team reached out to us because I think he'd started a YouTube channel at the same sort of time and asked if he could have the equipment that we use because he wanted to do those challenges for his channel with his players. And I'm just like, I came up with that. Like that's back of the hand stuff for me. But I'm like, that's so cool that's been enough to give someone an idea to want to do more. But it was, I enjoyed sort of, I don't want to say taking a back seat, but I love it when I was able to be responsible for something and see everyone so happy with how everything turned out.
I love it. And like, to anybody who's listening to this and is like, I could get into like production, you mentioned that you were headhunted. Is that a role that's like easily accessible to the everyday person? And like, what kind of experience do you need? You obviously had the credentials for, YouTube and all the content you were creating. To somebody who might not necessarily have done as like been where you are, but is aspiring to do something like that, what would your advice be to them? I
think my advice to sort of aspiring producers, it would obviously be very subjective to the sort of industry you're going into. And also, I will just say initially, I'm by no means perfect, and I literally went in there not knowing what I was doing. But if you're an organised person, that's the first and foremost. You need to be efficient, punctual, and dedicated to what you're doing, because I had a lot of responsibility on my shoulders. And I do remember the guy that hired me, absolutely loved him. We were really good mates. He did tell me, you are going to be the reason things go really well or really bad, and you have to be okay with that. And it will all blow over if it does go bad, but there will be times you have to make decisions on the spot, and you need to be authoritative and just trust your gut almost, but do what's best in a situation, because there's loads of circumstances you can't predict. So as I said, efficient, punctual, but you need to sort of...
What about qualifications?
That's a really difficult one to answer, just because I had qualifications, but not for that job and that skill set. And something I have always argued or spoke about with my friends is I don't think in this day and age qualifications for some industries or some jobs are an essential. There's a lot of jobs, and the one thing I've always said about social media with what I've done, you learn on the job doing it. There is no right or wrong way of doing it. You just learn a better way to do things next time.
Yeah. And just like, so we can give like the complete holistic picture, if we take the shoot with Muller, like what does the day look like? Like, are you starting at, like, are you flying to Germany at 5 a.m? Are you filming till 5 p.m? Are you flying back on the same day and getting back at 9 p.m? Like, what is the actual reality? Because the shoot's fun, but what about everything else behind the scenes that people don't see?
The behind the scenes of a shoot day is mad, because first of all, you've got weeks, maybe sometimes months of pre-production, of getting the players locked in, knowing what content's going to get approved, not approved ahead of time. No matter where the shoot was, whether it was in the UK or it was Europe or wherever abroad, you'd always normally travel up the day before. And 9 times out of 10, you'd have a call time of 5-6 hours before the athlete's going to arrive. Most of the shoots that I produced and worked on, we as ProDirect would be the retail partner hosting the shoot. So we would have to provide everything, whether it was the catering, the product and kit the player's going to wear. So we would need to be there early anyway to set all of that up. There is a lot of waiting around. Athletes are athletes. They're busy people. They're late lots of the time. There's lots of changes on the fly. So to take the Thomas Muller video, for example, so we flew out to Germany the night before. The day, I think we had 3 players. We had Benjamin Pavard, Serge Gnabry, and then Thomas Muller. I think we got to their training ground at 7:45 in the morning, which was an Uber drive there as well. You have to get checked and signed in, because it's quite uncommon that we shoot at training grounds. It normally has to be a neutral location, but because it was through Adidas, who were Bayern Munich sponsor, we got the rights there. But getting in was like getting in Fort Knox. Like, it was credentials, photographs, signatures, waivers, the lot. So that was an early start. then it's all the things, because we've travelled internationally, pumping up all the footballs because you've deflated them. The camera guys, the video guys, fantastic group of people, so efficient. They know what they're doing. I would always try and offer to help move stuff, but in terms of setting up, they're the experts. They know what they're doing. And then it would be, you know, maybe an hour, 2 hours before players arrive, you've got everything set up. So for me as a producer, it was, okay, let's do a run through. Let's do a walkthrough of this whole time. So we've got Benjamin Pavard first. We're going to do 2 videos, some photos and something else. Delegating the time for each segment. So if we've got him for 45 minutes, how is that going to look? And again, it will be walking through. The guys will mark out spots where they're going to put their cameras, so it's all ready to go, because 45 minutes to an hour, when it comes to it, is 5-10 minutes. It goes like that.
Yeah.
And again, going back to sort of my philosophy on things, I always want to get the most out of an opportunity. Like, I've done shoots where I've had literally 2.5 minutes with a player, but I will always maximize that as much as possible. So if when it's like 45 minutes an hour, I don't take it for granted. I'm like, that's still going to go quick. And again, more often than not, agents or brand teams will be like, sorry, we need to wrap it up early. So that was a rinse and repeat 3 times that day for the 3 athletes that we got. And I'm pretty sure as well at one point we actually had Gnabry and Pavard cross over. So then it was like, okay, well, I'm going to send Gnabry to go and do photography first, because he's already done photography with Benjamin Pavard. That means Benjamin Pavard continue on the video, and it will give the video team enough time to reset for when Gnabry comes back. It changes on the fly so quickly, and it's not just, it's my responsibility to sort of make those decisions, but it's a credit to our whole team. We were just like, you can't complain, you've just got to get up, go, move, get ready. And it was chaotic. And I think that day we must have finished at gone 7 p.m. and got back to the hotel at sort of 8 p.m.
And then is it like you fly back and then you just back at work at 9 a.m. the next day or wherever?
Yeah, pretty much.
And you're just editing?
Yeah, so like the film team, for example, with all that content, and the photography team, hopefully with enough planning, we will get the athletes ahead of time and shoot them in product that's not out. So we will have like a week or 2 week leeway to do all of those post edits. But even then, ProDirect as a business, which I'm sure is the same for every retailer, they're not just a football brand. They work across different departments, but they have one team working on all of it. Or I don't know how it works for internally at ProDirect with the whole business, but that we were a one-man band. So although there is always time, there's also no time.
Yeah.
And it's the one thing I loved about working in that business and being in that industry, was working with like-minded people who were trying to be so efficient and loved what they do, which is why we'd always get the best out of everything.
And then obviously you're doing all this work with ProDirect. Like, where does your personal stuff come into it, right? Because a lot of the stuff you're doing is housed through ProDirect. Are they letting you post personal content on Power and Precision? Like, how does it work, balancing the two?
The balance between my professional, my personal career was never an issue. Like, there was never boundaries or do's and don'ts for what I could and couldn't do. It certainly got, I think, maybe a bit complicated the further I got into my career, because there was a lot of natural crossover between what I was doing and what my role was at ProDirect. And I think a lot of that changed when I was on camera a lot more, and there was like, well, you've got these great ideas for Power and Precision, how can we implement them into ProDirect? And I was like, that's great, and I'd always do it. But then there was definitely times where I felt I also want to have my own identity away from this. And I think I had it in the back of my mind that I didn't apply for the job. I'm not grateful or anything, but I didn't compromise what I was doing because I wanted something else. It was an opportunity that came that I couldn't say no, and they were completely respectful and wanted me to continue doing my own thing, which I did. I think the financial and sort of branded side of things was where it sort of was a grey area, is probably the best way to put it, because if I was taking days for annual leave to go and do my own work to get paid, it's a very fair conflict of interest, because I'm on a salary working full-time for one company. Why should I be taking that time off to do my own thing?
No, but it's your own annual leave.
Then it's my own annual leave. It was something that was never an issue. It was just something that there was definitely times where I didn't know what was right and what was wrong. And the last thing I ever wanted to do was upset or annoy anyone. But also at the same time, I said from the beginning I joined the company, and it could have been any job that I got. I love what I do personally, and I would, with 0 followers, 0 anything, I'd still love to spend my Sunday morning going to the pitch and making videos, or just even taking free kicks and having a kick about my mates. That would never change.
So question on that, like, obviously through ProDirect you have access to your Mullers, your this, your that. Do you build relationships that you then use for Power and Precision, or do you feel like you already had them because you'd already built up quite an audience to the point where they invited you to become a producer, right?
Yeah, that's a very fair question. It's probably, there's a few overlapping areas. I mean, in terms of athletes, I didn't really build any relationships outside of ProDirect with people directly. There were a couple of players, I would personally message everyone on Instagram once I've worked with them and just say thanks. Couple players respond, loads of them don't. Couple players even followed me, and it's like great, but that wouldn't lead to anything in terms of content or monetization elsewhere. That was just like something I was like, no way. Like Diogo Dallo's followed me back, and I'm like, United fan. I'm just like, this is sick. Like so cool. Yeah. And then in terms of brands, there was a little bit, because before joining ProDirect, I had contacts with Nike, Adidas, Puma, Under Armour, New Balance. They all would send me products, or I'd have a contact inside. Working for ProDirect, there was a couple of contacts that overlapped, but there was a lot of new people. And I did sort of contact people outside of work, and I wasn't the only person in terms of, it was like just a thing, like you sometimes do favours for people, they return the favour. Yeah. It was never in terms of like I'll try and get some branded work with Nike outside using the people I've got for your product. That never, ever, ever happened. Mm-hmm. But since I have not been at ProDirect, I've reached out to people, and for example, Puma are a brand that they really enjoyed working with me on set, because I assume they enjoyed my sort of work ethic, and I have done freelance pieces for them since leaving ProDirect with the people that I met through ProDirect.
Yeah, okay, I like that. And on that, with the freelance stuff that you've done, both now, during that time, it's everyone's dream to play football with footballers, but coming back to earning a living, what's the range for doing a shoot or something like that, being hired to create this kind of content for a brand?
I think the range for pricing and costs for a shoot, it is variable on the outputs. I've been used as a producer as well as a creator. Okay. So for producer, I'm trying to think of rates that I have had. It's probably, if it's day rates, it's between £1,000 to maybe £2,000.
Woo!
Yeah. Which I haven't done many, unfortunately.
No, okay, but we take it though.
But yeah, no, fantastic. And then as a creator, that's where I think there's no right or wrong price, because everything is so subjective to what the output is and what the brand's budget is. And brands, having worked a product, I know that you want to keep your costs down. That's a business. So you're not going to go, we'll give you whatever you want. There's always the negotiation side. I've done stuff for as cheap as £500, and I think the most I've done, which was a lot of outputs, was £3,000-4,000.
Wow. And for that £3,000 or £4,000 piece of work, you say it's a lot of outputs. What time would that take from you? Is it a week worth of work? Is it a month's worth of work?
With everything from start to finish, in terms of your emails with the brand, ideating, getting your ideas approved, especially if it's with an athlete or a player, it always has to get approved by them and the player or the agent. So that's always a long process, and there's a lot of back and forth between, if you can't do this, well then can we do this? Mm-hmm. The shoot day, because I've done it from both sides, as a producer working for a business and then as a creator being freelance, I still had to be there nearly as long as I was as a producer. That's just a non-negotiable. So that's your full day. And then the edits, it's a few days, okay, but it's a few back and forths between, can you change this? Can you change that? Can you upload the original footage for us and send it here so we've got our own
a lot
copy?
Of revisions.
Yeah. And I'm a very open guy. I know there's some of my friends are they'll have a cut off to how much they do, and that's completely respectful. Maybe I should do that a bit more. But for me, I'd rather keep the brand happy and myself happy, so I've got the door wide open for being a potential partner to work with in the future.
I love that. And on that, what is your experience working with brands and sponsors? have you just learned how to do it because of your experience with ProDirect? Like, what advice would you give to people to, give them the best chance at securing that repetitive work?
My advice for sort of repetitive work or just any work in general, I've always been quite accepting on a first basis for a brand on what they want. That's not selling myself short, but if they don't have a budget at the time, or it's the first time you're working with them and there's not much out of it, but it's an opportunity, that's exactly how I see it. It's an opportunity. I would rather explore something knowing I'm going to get at least content out of it than not do it at all and never have a chance of doing something with them again.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's a balance between selling yourself at the right price and playing hardball and pushing back on brands if they're like, we can only do this price and you want this price. And that's where I'm lucky. I've had a manager that's been able to completely take those conversations off my plate. But for still 80% of my career, I've done it all by myself. And there's times where I haven't pushed back on a budget, or I've said a price and they've said yes straight away, and I'm like, damn, I could have asked for more. Like, that was silly.
On that, sorry to jump in there. Like, how great has it been having a manager? Like, can you describe like the benefits and maybe the drawbacks of getting that management?
Well, I've had a couple of managers, and I've enjoyed my most recent one, Hayden, because other than it doesn't take a responsibility off of you, because I think I still have a passion and drive to want to message people or try and find some work myself, but their incentive is to find you work. And also, the managers I've worked with are way more experienced than I am, being able to word things better, to ask for a higher price without driving someone away. Or in terms of something that Hayden's done, is he's built me a couple of longer term relationships. So even though your price might be as high as you'd want it for one shoot,
it's consistent.
You're getting prolonged work, which is going to outweigh that one-off big hit, or whatever the amount is. And also as well, the reason that I've enjoyed having management is just because you get a lot of feedback on your own content from a fresh pair of eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily what you're doing well and what isn't working, but what else you could do in terms of looking forward. Well, I'll give you a real-time example now. The World Cup's next year. The Women's Euros is about to finish, so I'm going to focus on a future date. I know, come on. So it will be, okay, well, here's 4 main sponsors that for the last how many World Cups have always been a sponsor. They're probably going to be a sponsor again. But also, we know that as an agency, this sponsor is now going to be part of the World Cup, this sponsor. So follow them on Instagram, interact with some of their stuff. Or it could be things like, just have it in the back of your mind, this brand has worked with a lot of people like this before.
Yeah.
Is there some content you can do that overlaps? And just triggering your brain to not like change what you do, but just adapt some small things to maybe make yourself more appealing.
No, that's really insightful. And then that brings us nicely into, you're obviously at ProDirect, but now you've kind of gone out on your own again and you're like a full-time content creator. You mentioned the fact that the ProDirect opportunity at the time was too good to turn down. Like, talk to me about the decision making to leave that opportunity that was too good to turn down to go it alone again.
Leaving ProDirect and leaving that career is hands down the most difficult decision I've ever made, and it took me 2-3 months of figuring it out, and it came down to a few factors, some of which I'll discuss, some of which I won't, but financially I needed more, and because I was doing well with Power and Precision, and that there was some limitations and grey area about what I could and couldn't do, it was limiting my income personally, which I wasn't expecting the full compensation from ProDirect or whoever I'd be working for, but it was a bit of a difficult one for me because it wasn't about even wanting to make more money, but everything costs were going up over years, and when your own salary isn't, that's really important. And for me, Power and Precision was able to sort of top me up or give me a bit more extra so I could save for holidays or save towards moving out, whatever I was channeling
that's
towards.
Completely fair.
And I think that's fair for any industry and any business. Like, if you can make money on the side and you want to, you're going to, because you need to make it, right?
Yeah.
And I think the other thing was, I put Power and Precision on the back burner for 3 years, and I never pursued the career when it took off because I took this job. I don't regret taking the job. Do I miss ProDirect and being in that space 24/7? Absolutely. It was the best years of my life professionally and as a career, and I'll cherish all the memories, and I'm trying to take everything I learned from there to better and further myself.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was extremely difficult to do, and I've tried to keep a really open, honest and good relationship with the people that hired me, the people that I worked with. I've still got lifelong friends that I'll still talk to and see all the time. It's something that would never go away, and I hope that I've left the door well wide enough that there's chance for whether it's collaboration or employment down the line. Who knows? But
and just on that, like, when you're making the decision to leave, is it I'm leaving and we're gonna figure out the opportunities as they come, or is you know what, I've actually got enough opportunities here where I can replace the income I had there, or I know if I knuckle down I can supplement my income again? It's just like, how much of a risk was it, I suppose, is the question.
If you were to ask my manager, he'd be like, why didn't you do it sooner?
Okay.
And that's what he told me from the get-go. But from my perspective, it felt like a leap of faith. It was jumping a very large jump.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I did leave when I left, which was in October last year, was because I'd been offered a couple of freelance jobs that were essentially going to be, I think, 3/4 of my annual salary.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I decided with the conversations with my manager that if I'm ever going to do it, it's a great time to do it now, because if anything happens, funnily enough, at least you've got some income for the first 6 to 9 months that you know is going to be there. And the most important thing, I'd have all the time in the world to dedicate as much or as little as I wanted to my own thing. So that was probably the main bulk of why I decided to make the move when I did.
Yeah.
It was because I didn't have a safety blanket in terms of my own savings, genuinely didn't have any savings at all. It was the fact that I had some work lined up that would be able to compensate the gap of not working full time, and I banked on the fact that if I've now got my whole week free, not just a Saturday and a Sunday morning when the pitch is free, I can go out and make content and grow myself that way.
I love it. And that brings us to like the power and precision of today. Like, I want to get into it, right? So you post content on TikTok, you post content on Instagram, you post content not so much on YouTube actually. Maybe you've done some shorts, but like you said, you got some stuff coming out.
Absolutely, I do. Yeah.
How does your content differ across the platforms? Is my first question. Does it differ?
My content doesn't differ too much.
Okay.
The only big difference I've got is, as of December, I started a second channel where I've...
The Boot Collector.
The Boot Collector, the Boot Collection. I've separated Cameron Corp Power and Precision to Cameron Corp, the football boot nerd, the football boot enthusiast who knows everything about everything. Reason being is because I wanted something new to focus on. But secondly, because I wanted to build two stronger audiences in a niche market, and I think my football boot knowledge and my just love for product deserved its own space for other people that were consumers looking to buy the best boots and they didn't know what to get, people that do just love football boots and collectors like myself, because there are a lot of us. There are a lot of us.
Yeah.
And also because I saw that as a really good business opportunity to be an authenticator, a voice to people about, again, going back to my early days, I like to be real about product. And that's not saying what's bad and terrible, but more just, oh, it's made of a fly knit upper and it's got this. What does that mean? What does that mean if you put them on your feet? What does it feel like? So I was trying to be a bit more realistic, and I thought diversifying that content and making them two separate avenues would be a good way to go. And I'm really glad I've done it, and it has paid off so far, and I'm enjoying it. So the power and precision side of things, I'm still figuring out, to be honest. Like YouTube, I'm looking to do more, and I've actively already filmed a few things which I am looking to regenerate and repost stuff that I didn't do before. And then Instagram and TikTok is a bit, they come hand in hand. I just try not to post the same content at the same time, because even though I've got a similar amount of followers on both platforms, probably less than 5% of them actually follow both. So it is two completely different audiences, and I don't want to hit any algorithm imaginary blocks that I don't know if they exist or not, where it's like, oh, if you post the same content at the same time, it's going to kill the reach on the one that you did it on second, for example.
What content tends to do best, and what's your favourite content to shoot?
The content that traditionally did best for my own socials were impressive free kicks. It's my DNA. It's why I was originally known and why I've got a very sort of core fan base that were just, I guess, impressed by the way I could strike a ball and manipulate it to.
How many views are we talking on a free kick video? Like one of your best performing?
One of my best performing that's gone viral. 5 million, 6 million.
Oh my goodness.
That I remember there was 2015 I scored, probably still is the best free kick of my life. And this was in a period where sports pages wouldn't really share user-generated content, and Sport Bible shared it. And it went viral. Like, it did like 12, 15 million views on Facebook.
Wow.
And I just remember, first of all, I was like absolutely buzzing because I was in college and everyone was like, this is so cool, like you're on Sport Bible. But second of all, I was just like, it's crazy, just kicking a ball and getting that views.
And does that drive like followers as well when you get that many?
Yeah, back in the day, it had way more influence. Like, if you got shared by a page, I remember 433 featured me a couple of times, and I can tell you exactly the moment that my phone blew up. I was in college, and all of a sudden, just follow, and I'm not kidding, it was continuous, and I was like, what is going on? And 433 had posted one of my videos and tagged me in the description, and seriously, 5-7 years ago, if you had your content shared on a source like that, you would get a flooding of followers. I think I gained like 12,000 followers in a day.
That's nuts.
I've never even come close to like 1,000 in a day since then. That's just unheard and insane. So that's sort of like, I'd say that was prime power and precision. The free kicks were the stuff that does views. Now, I don't think there is like a recipe or a certain type of content that does better than the other. Something I've been doing recently is repurposing some player content I did either for ProDirect or personal things. But that's being more so to capitalise on a talking point. So the most recent thing I did literally 3 days ago, I saw Darwin Núñez score a hat-trick in a pre-season behind closed door friendly against Stoke, and he's got a buzz cut now.
Yeah.
When I filmed of him, I posted content, it did millions of views. So I was like, well, I'm just going to repurpose it and make a complete different edit. And I hadn't posted on TikTok for a long time, and it did 2.5 million views in 2 days.
Wow. And when you say repurpose, what does repurposing involve?
Repurposing to me means using content you've already shot in its raw format, but making a different edit out of it. So to give you context to that video, when I was at ProDirect and filmed with Darwin Núñez, I did a 5-shot challenge with him. So it was a penalty, a free kick, a first-time finish, a 2-touch, and a corner. And I would always...
Did he score any?
No,
I'm joking.
Darwin Núñez is the best striker of a ball that I've probably worked with.
You heard it here first.
Insane. And
Better than Bruno!
Yeah.
Oh,
you'll see. The reason this video has gone viral is because he scores everything. And I'm not talking scores. I'm talking top bins. Stanch.
Okay.
So good. So, again, going back to my ProDirect days, when I would do this type of content, to also keep the brands happy, if I went against the pro and beat them, it would look bad because I'm like, they're the pro. So I would always film 3 or 4 attempts per thing, and then I'd manipulate the scoring and only use 1 or 2 attempts. This is a big secret that not many people know.
Okay.
So I'm sat on footage with Darwin Núñez where we've actually had 3 attempts, but I've only used 1 in the original edit. So I just used an extra shot from each of us and made a different style of video, and yeah,
wow,
2.5 million views in a couple of days.
You mentioned the fact that you don't use all of the content right there. Are there any other myths or misconceptions that you want to like debunk?
I mean, I've had my best days on camera and my worst days on camera with athletes. There's been some days that I've been turned up and the players have been like, fair. Because like I'm not like an athlete and I don't look like one, and I definitely when I was at ProDirect I had a bit more of a belly, so like sometimes wearing the nice like tight fitting clothing it's a bit like he's not a footballer, and then I'd pull out some worldies and players would be like fair. But then other times there's been some players that have either been superhuman robots or they've been struggling and sort of not putting that much effort in, which is fair enough. Like, they don't have to.
Yeah.
But yeah.
What is it like recording with professionals?
My early days recording with professionals, once the nerves settled down, it was more I suffered from, I think, imposter syndrome, where I felt that I had to be doing something because of the position I was in. So I would think that the player would know me and that I had to be good at my free kicks, because if I'm not, I'm a fraud and I'm a waste. But the more I did it, I would appreciate being sort of in their presence and watching them do the easy thing, that making the difficult things look very easy. And also for me, I would just always try and orientate anything I did, challenges, videos, interviews, to tailor the player that I was working with. And to take the Darwin Núñez shoot as an example, he'd just moved to Liverpool. I remember there was a clip of him going viral, which I'm sure you can pull up, where he spanked it wide by an absolute mile in training, and everyone was like, this guy's awful. And he'd missed a couple of easy chances in his first couple of games. And I said, let's get this man rattling balls and showing how good he actually is. And I didn't even need to give him attempts. Like, he's one of the only players where he literally, everything was first time, and the quality and standard of finishing, it's why it did, literally, I think it did 25 million views in a week, the content I did with him for ProDirect. And I was like, this is a perfect storm of a player's popular for the wrong reasons. Let's sort of right that wrong, but use it to our favour. And he obviously, it went viral on like Liverpool threads being like, oh, this is our new number 9.
Yeah, I love it. Coming back to like your own personal content, right? Do you, if we look at Instagram and TikTok, you do millions of views. Do you think about like monetization on those platforms? And for somebody who generates a few million views every month, what does that look like across those platforms?
The income and monetization for platforms differs. So Instagram, you don't get paid.
Okay.
You don't get paid, which I still don't understand that in 2025. And it's not even from a sense of I deserve to be paid and anyone. It's just everyone else pays, so I can't still understand.
Also, Mark Zuckerberg is out here giving like AI engineers $100 million contracts, but that's a story for another day.
See, that's something I didn't know, and that's just added to my point.
Yeah.
So Instagram is a no-go. The money on the side of that is always brand deals for Instagram content.
Fair.
TikTok, monetize if you hit 10,000 followers and you post videos that are over 60 seconds. Anything under 60 seconds, nothing. Which I made a massive mistake the other day, because what we just spoke about with Núñez, I did with Cole Palmer when he tore it up in the Club World Cup final. Repurposed the penalty shootout, made it 59 seconds.
No!
1.2 million views, and I didn't get a penny.
Wow.
And that is my own fault. But TikTok, it's all based on obviously the video being 60 seconds to qualify and you having the follower requirements. But the second thing is the watch time, or I think it's the average watch time, and then your RPM because of that, and how many views actually qualify. Okay. So TikTok, I couldn't tell you what my RPM is because it differs between every video. But the Núñez video that I've just done, I think in the first 12 hours that it had clocked the views for, it did 620,000 views, 310,000 qualified, and it's made me $299.
Okay.
Which to me, that's the most I've probably ever made from a TikTok, and I was like, bloody hell. So I'm dying to go and check my phone for the next couple of days, because hopefully that's helped. Mm-hmm. But for my boot collection, a couple of videos go viral and I'll maybe get $100, $200 over a month, 2-month period from them. I think on TikTok, on my boot collection page, because I post a video every day and it's at least 60 seconds, so everything is monetized, I couldn't tell you the average views I get. It must be between like 300,000 to maybe 500,000 if I've had a good couple of videos. I'll probably make, I don't know, $400 a month, which isn't great when you consider that. And to put into perspective, if that was views on YouTube as a long form, you're getting a few £1,000 for that. Yeah. So TikTok and short form still is very behind long form content in terms of monetization. And then in YouTube content, I haven't posted for a while, so I couldn't give you a fair reflection, but I know that my most viewed video, which I think has nearly done 1 million views, I tested real football products against fake ones. It was like a 12-minute video, so you could have adverts in the middle of your video, which helps with your monetization. I think in its lifetime as a 6-year-old video, it's maybe made nearly $1,000, maybe just over $1,000.
Yeah, we'll take that.
I'll take it. But then you look at YouTubers who are doing this every single week that get millions of views. That is where the big bucks is.
So now you're obviously out on your own. with everything you've just said, I'm gonna sound like his agent now. Where's your focus?
Well, genuinely, because of the injury and where I'm at, I'm probably only just overcoming the mental setbacks of not physically being able to play football. But my perspective has shifted massively recently, probably in the last month, where I've seen my own value in still being able to make meaningful content on other platforms and at least just try and make some money. But my main priority is to grow, is to just get more people watching me, knowing my name, because I would love to be more active around tournaments, as we say, like the World Cup next year. I want to be out there. I want to be with a brand, getting paid to represent someone or promote something. That's where I want to be.
It's not about the views on the social media platform.
No.
But you've just mentioned something there, and I think we can segue into it nicely. You're just coming out of the other side of like a bad mental moment. And yeah, just to set the scene before I hand over to you. Yes. So you might not be a professional athlete, but you are at the same time. Like, you're an athlete, but not an athlete.
Yeah.
You're an athlete, but the elite is silent. I don't know, you're an athlete. No. I'm joking, but long story short, like you ruptured your Achilles. Was it towards the end of last year? Or
January.
It was January.
End of January this year.
And then I saw a video recently where I think it's like early July. I see you playing football and it goes again. Yeah, can you talk to me about like the way you view yourself as an athlete, the injury, and the mental impact that's had on yourself?
You've said it really well. I never viewed myself as an athlete, but ironically, I do remember when I left ProDirect, one of the lines I wrote in my sort of thank you appreciation post was, I've got to live the life of a footballer without being one. And that is because essentially I had, and I'm not going to go into all like the businessy and cool things, but in terms of I would be playing with footballers, and obviously my content, a large percentage of it was me being on a football pitch, taking a free kick. So yeah, in a way, I've conditioned my body, my legs really, not anything else, but I've conditioned my legs to tolerate taking free kicks for 5-6 hours at a time. I love it. I wouldn't change it.
So are you going gym?
Yeah, but upper body and like weights.
Oh, you skip leg day.
Yeah. Do you know what's funny is about a week or two before I ruptured my Achilles, I had a really good chat with a friend of mine who plays semi-pro, and he said that there's a reason him and a lot of players don't really train legs is because it can lead to injuries. And I was like, well, thank God I don't train legs then, because like I'd rely on my legs, and then this happened 2 weeks ago. And the other thing I do, which I'm going to share, I'd rarely warm up.
Ooh.
Genuinely, and it's not like a ignorant thing or like, oh, I think but I never have. Like my warm-up is going 30-40 yards away from my mate and zipping a ball for 10 minutes. That is how I'd warm my legs up. You know, in hindsight, what an idiot.
Not any opening in the gate.
No,
not any.
The only time I'd do that is if I genuinely felt tight, and I would never really feel tight.
Okay.
And also to go back to the whole Achilles thing, when I ruptured it, it wasn't even doing anything like strenuous. Like all it was is I think ball got played to me, I chested it, and as I pushed my foot back to push off, it just went. Like it was, and it sucks because I didn't even know what I did when I did it. I was just like, oh, that didn't feel good. And I went down and my mates were like, did you hear the pop? And I was like, no. And I don't know if that means they heard it, but I know that's a symptom of rupturing your Achilles, and that's what I ended up doing.
What about, so you mentioned you don't warm up. What about recovery? Were you doing like cool downs or anything like that?
Go home and have a hot shower.
Wow.
Dead serious.
Wow.
I'm sure, like, I'm smiling. I'm not saying this like I'm proud of it and that I don't care. It's honestly just, I've never given it thought. It's not something where I've got an ego. I think I honestly, I'm just stupid. Like I hand on heart don't think it's got anything to do with that going. I mean, I literally spoke to the sort of consultants and surgeons who were looking at me when this happened, and they said, it's one of those, it's just that motion, it can happen. And it was, I can't remember that basketballer that's
Halliburton
recently,
yeah,
exact same motion. That's just all it is. I think it was David Hayes stood back in the boxing ring, did it. It's really, really unfortunate.
And in the moment that it happens or that you're diagnosed, then you realise like how long you're going to be out for. Like, what are the emotions that you're going through?
I remember when I got to give you the story, it happened in Portugal on a Thursday. I flew home Friday morning first thing with it just wrapped up with some ice. Went to the hospital in the evening. and they scanned it and they were like, yeah, it's ruptured. I didn't really know what a ruptured Achilles entailed and how bad it was. I was sort of thinking a couple of months, not half a year until you're walking. So that was a massive shock factor. And given the timing of where I'm at and that I'd left not only my job, but the job I absolutely loved in October, and I was only 2-3 months into doing everything personally by myself, it was like, oh no, like this is honestly the worst thing. I mean, I was broken. I was absolutely distraught. And when I, first of all, had the mental complication of I wanted to have surgery because I'd spoken to a few people already that had had the injury, and most of them all play football, and they said, get surgery because it will literally knit it together and then you build it. They wouldn't operate on me because I'm diabetic. And 2 reasons. Number one, my sugars were slightly above the threshold for what they would consider the type of surgery they'd perform on me, where it's not essential because it can heal conservatively. But second of all, because I'm diabetic, my blood circulation isn't as great in my lower limbs, so the wound complications and the healing might never clear up, or they might have complications. And they said that paired with the high sugars, we don't want to risk it. So I also was convinced and telling myself, okay, well, I can bring my sugars down and then I can have surgery. And when they turned around, they're like, no, we're not, it's not a debate. We're not operating on you. And I was like, okay. So that really set me back, because it was processing that I didn't know if my body was going to heal strong enough. We'll come on to that in a minute. But also having one thing in my brain and having one expectation of what a ruptured Achilles was, to then the reality and putting it into perspective with how my career was panning out.
Yeah. So how is it you've dealt with it then?
Well, I'll be honest, the first couple of weeks, probably, so I went in a cast for 2 weeks, so I was pretty much immobile, like I couldn't do anything. I continued to post content every single day on the boot collection, because for me, that was a project I set up where I wanted to post a video every single day for a whole year and see what happens with followers, money, just as an experiment. The power and precision side of things, I announced what had happened. I got lovely support, and I did it selfishly to sort of lift the weight off my shoulders, because I do think I have a tendency to feel that I owe something to the people that follow me. Mm-hmm. So being like, not able to take free kicks, not being able to work with players, I was like, what, people aren't going to follow me, and I'm not going to not tell them or lie about what's happened. So I just was honest and said what happened.
I think it's in those moments that you really connect with the audience.
Yeah.
Because, I've had something similar where I said I was struggling, thinking about closing, like shutting down the podcast, and the messages just flood in, man. And you realise, no, these guys, they're actually here for me. Yeah,
I completely agree. And I was talking to Ewan about this when I did it, and I'll come on to what's happened recently, but he was like, sometimes it's nice to do that because you do need a bit of love, and when you've got loads of followers, it's not selfish, it's just sometimes you need to make yourself feel better. And I said to him, I get that, but I said that is not honestly the reason I did it. My first and foremost was I just felt like I had a weight on my shoulders, and I owed it to myself to be honest to people, but also just to manage the expectations of not just the people follow me who were young or follow me because they enjoyed what I do, but also the brands and people that I was going to be working with. So it's like, okay, he might not be able to do stuff for us now, but he's not out the game. That was sort of the incentive and reasoning behind it.
So you've told them you stopped posting on Power and Precision as much, but you've kept the boot collection going. Have you kept up the everyday?
Yeah.
How long's it been?
So it's been, I started it mid-December, so it was before I got injured.
Okay.
I've grown up to 86,000 followers.
Wow.
Which it's probably one of my sort of proudest achievements, is the fact that I've built something so quickly. And I think what I do is so niche, because all I do is talk about football boots that I've got in my collection, or I review the new boots that people ask me to, or I've done some wacky things like, I told my girlfriend I could do this, and she was like, you should film it. And I was like, no. And she was like, no, you should. And I did. I can blindfold myself, and she'd pass me any boot from my collection, and I could identify it by touch.
Wow.
Which is so sad.
Yeah.
But things like that, like, people love. They're like, oh, so cool. It's
That's
nerdy,
impressive.
but it's cool.
How many boots do you have in your collection?
I think it's over 300.
Oh my God. So if you were to do a review every day, you've got about a year's worth of content if you chuck in the other bits.
Yep, and that doesn't include me buying the new boots and sending them back sometimes, or just trying to keep up with the general releases. Yeah.
Wow, so you're good. And like, yeah, what is What are the goals like both now and in future for your channels and for yourself, obviously, as you recover?
My goals for myself personally right now is I've re-ruptured my Achilles. I don't know to what extent. I did it about a month ago, and I was sort of, the finishing line was in sight for being back to normal and maybe returning to the pitch. So my perspective has totally changed of my own health. I wasn't rushing back in the first place. My Achilles re-ruptured from walking. It was so unlucky. So the first priority is get healthy, get back to being where I was, and then build physically before I play football. For the socials, it's to maintain some form of schedule with keeping myself sane and having something to do. I want to post more on YouTube because I genuinely enjoy it. And when I filmed the first video for 2 years the other day, I enjoyed it so much. And I was like, man, why have I been putting this off? And to answer my own question there, the reason I put so much content off for a long time is because the landscape of YouTube has changed so much. Therefore, I changed my own perspective of myself, which was so wrong to do. But I thought, well, I haven't got editors that can do all this stuff and make it look really like cool. I don't have loads of famous YouTubers that I can say, come in my video and, for example, like the Sideman. And I sort of talked myself out of doing something when really, out of all the platforms, I think TikTok has come the closest. But YouTube, from where it came, it's just about sharing what you want to do with the world. And that is, I've always said, is the beauty of social media. So it's to have schedule, routine, and some form of consistency with my posting on Power and Precision. And the boot collection is to continue to be the voice, the authenticator of football boot product, a reliable source. I'm not a gimmick. I'm not someone doing it because I'm getting paid. I'm just a football boot nerd that loves to talk about football boots and educate people.
I love it. And then, like, to somebody who's gotten to this point in the conversation, right? One of the reasons we have these conversations is to give an insight. Like, what would your advice be to anybody who wants to get into content creation as a career?
The best bit of advice I could give anyone that wants to get into content creation: do it if you love it. If you've got a passion for something, you do it. If it's financial and for money and brand deals, I think you'll burn out. And that is something I've always told people when it's whether they've come up to me at the pitch and asked me, like, why'd you do it, or any advice, or when I've done similar chats like this. I stopped doing what I was doing a couple of times was when I stopped loving it. And once I found the spark and I was like, no, I just like doing this, everything else follows. If you don't have a passion for it, I think there's a different perspective. A lot of the younger generation, there is the mindset of money, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I have seen people succeed, and I'm not saying that's not an avenue, but my advice to get the best out of everything is do something that you love. And if you enjoy it, it's not a chore, it's a hobby. It's something you just want to do.
I love it. Cameron, man, this has been such a sick conversation. Before we end, we do have a quick fire round.
Oh, go on, hit me.
Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
Collaborate with Messi or Ronaldo?
Ronaldo.
Favourite football boot of all time?
Nike Mercurial Superfly 4.
Love it. Favourite free kick of all time?
Cristiano Ronaldo against Portsmouth.
Yeah, love it. Knuckleball or finesse shot?
Knuckleball.
Favourite collab of all time? That's for yourself.
Now you've lost me. My favourite collab has probably got to be with Bruno Fernandes.
Come on. If you could do a crossover with any sport, which sport would it be? Look at me, I'm giving you ideas, man.
Yeah. Well, I'm just thinking I've done a couple of stupid things, but I don't know. I think football and rugby is the most similar because, you know, there is kicking in both, and I've done a few like conversion kicks, and because I'm good at free kicks, I've got a lot of power, I can do that. So maybe something there. And I did go against a couple of England players in a football v rugby battle on ProDirect, and I got absolutely spanked, but I held my own on the football side of things, and it was so fun.
Yeah. Okay. Sick. Favorite player of all time?
Cristiano Ronaldo.
I thought you might say that. And then finally, what current player is criminally underrated?
Which current player is criminally underrated? Oh, I don't want to be biased and like talk about United players. I mean, I still think Bruno Fernandes. I don't think he's underrated. I just think the stick he gets from non-United fans is mad because
Yeah.
he'd walk into any Premier League team.
Okay.
Oh, I don't know who's criminally underrated. That is a tough one, mate.
We can stick with Bruno.
Yeah, stick with Bruno.
Who do I think is criminally underrated?
I've never thought about stuff like that.
No, there's loads. Like you know how all the Spurs players used to say Moussa Dembele, best player they played with, criminally underrated. I think who else do I think? I think Semenyo is underrated. I think he should be at a bigger club at the moment.
Yeah. Can I say one thing?
Yeah,
and this is not they're underrated, but it's just I know people appreciate this. The most technically gifted player I've ever worked with. I want you to think. Who do you think, or like players that you've seen I've worked with? Who do you think I might name here?
Technically gifted.
Yeah, like, and I'm talking they're good at first touch is immaculate, their shooting is immaculate, their passing is immaculate. Just everything is.
I think I'm gonna go a little left field here. Like Harry Kane.
Nice. I wouldn't say great, but no, not him. I'll give you
What position?
left back,
Left back. What league?
Premier League,
Not Kirkes. Robertson.
Arsenal, former City.
Arsenal, former City.
Yeah.
Zinchenko. Really?
Alex Zinchenko is the most like complete player I've ever worked with. He is a joke.
So how good must Miles Lewis Skelly be then? Because he doesn't even play for Arsenal.
Honestly, Zinny is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm not an Arsenal fan, and definitely not a City fan. But my God, I'd bang on about him. He's
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Just everything but like actually playing minutes for Arsenal.
I don't even know what it is. But the thing is, even all the City, you can see stuff in the media. All the City players speak about how technical he is, and all the Arsenal players do, like in interviews or when you see like training clips. Everyone will always say how good he is.
Yeah.
Just
Maybe he's done a Wilfred Zaha and like shagged Arteta's daughter or something like that.
No, there's something dodgy going on there.
This isn't that kind of podcast. No, Cameron, bro, this has been such a sick conversation. We do have a closing tradition on this podcast. Like with everything that you've been through, bro, like what advice would you give your younger self?
I think, what advice would I give my younger self?
Yeah, like the 2013-14 Cameron that's just starting out.
Don't care about people's perspective or opinion of you. There's been times where I've definitely taken it a bit too close to heart, or even in my perspective, I've self-sabotaged in terms of I've just thought what people will think, not what people actually think, and I've talked myself out of things, or I've not taken a leap earlier, maybe leaving a job I love to do something else. And I've done this, but I would still tell myself it, and I tell anyone younger, cherish every moment and experience you get, because I would happily not kick a ball ever again and like have everything gone and take everything I've ever done.
Mm-hmm.
Like the work I've been able to do, the places I've been able to go, personally and professionally, I'll never ever be not grateful for and never take for granted. It's just enjoy every moment and be grateful for what you've been able to experience and achieve.
I love it. Cameron, where can people find you, my bro?
So I'm on Instagram, YouTube and TikTok. I'm called Power and Precision, all one word, or the Boot Collection, or you can literally search my name, Cameron Corp.
You know what? Yeah. If you ever need someone to just hit a few free kicks in London when you're back, just hit me up, man. Because man used to have a little side. You get me?
I'll see, mate. You might have to give me 7 months.
7 months, mate.
I'll be there.
I'm gonna be here. But no, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge, wisdom, and guys. With that, like, if you've enjoyed this conversation, you know what to do, guys. Like, subscribe, comment. Let us know who you want to hear from next. We've got some amazing guests coming on the podcast. And yeah, with that, it's been another episode of What My Best Friend Does. If you didn't know, now you know. Over and out.